What's going on, world? Coming at you guys again. We got another quick video. Nolan Wales. Let's talk about it. So if you guys haven't heard by now, there's an individual by the name of Nolan Wales who happens to be a black male who allegedly disappeared while out and about amongst his friends, whom all happen to be also white, even though Nolan Wales is black and is likely the only black person that was actually there. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy as to what actually happened. There's some allegations of a drowning, but to my understanding, there is a lack of comorbidity to support the ideology of drowning because he wasn't found for up to 2 days in the water. So, should be bloating, etc., etc. Apparently, there was not. Now, outside of that, there's a discrepancy about his phone, who had his phone, as well as the retrieving and the receival of the phone not being voluntarily administered to the parents, but it had to do through some form of communication and possible, I guess you could say, coercion. But the reality of the situation is there's also some type of underlying issue with his keys being at his friend's house and his friend not knowing where his keys were. And the reality of the situation is apparently there was a girl who actually pointed out the fact that, well, the keys were obviously on top of an Xbox. And, you know, if you have an Xbox, you probably play it at least once a day. So the fact of the matter that these keys weren't able to be found, it makes it all more questionable. Now, I talked about this before. I said specifically, the verdict of Carmelo Anthony being charged with murder, first-degree murder, and his inability to claim self-defense when he was accosted not just by one person, but by multiple people, and in the state of Texas, gives him the authorization legally to utilize deadly force through the self-defense doctrine. I said that this verdict is going to have a butterfly effect, and it's going to open the door for individuals whom have an interpreted position of psychopathy, meaning that individuals who are more prone to violence and unaliving people, they're going to become bolder. They're going to feel more entitled and capable because now we are looking at the fact that black males do not have justification or grounds to defend themselves. And as we see right now with Nolan Wales, with Carmelo Anthony, unfortunately, it looks like the same situation and scenario. You know, I know this is fresh, but I've been talking about this for a while. And the same people who were degrading Carmelo Anthony for defending himself on the basis that they felt as though he didn't have a right to defend himself because it was just a regular confrontation. Again, I am a U.S. Army veteran. I served almost 10 years during Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom. Not only that, but I'm a certified instructor for the U.S. Army's hand-to-hand combat fighting program, which means I teach soldiers how to engage enemies, foreign or domestic, with non-lethal and lethal force to detain or to neutralize. A fight can be deadly 100% of the time. And 98% of the time, you don't know what someone else is thinking. So to say that an individual who engages another individual can't possibly arise to the occasion of a life or death scenario It's a completely biased perspective because in the heat of the moment, things can turn in the blink of an eye. As we've seen, we saw a 70-year-old man accost a 70-year-old boy, child, and attempt to drown him in a lake. And now he's being charged with attempted murder. This same situation what we saw with Carmelo Anthony, it was not just one person he was interacting with. When we see this individual, Nolan Wells, well, apparently he was surrounded by at least 3 or 4 or more people. How many people he interacted with and what actually happened, well, that's to be determined. But it stands the test of time. Historically, we know for a fact the people on the planet that have the most history of violence are white males. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And I dare anybody on the entire planet, on the face of the earth, to say that that's not true. That's not a real statement. Because if they have the capacity and the audacity to say that young white males aren't historically known for being the most violent people on the planet, unfortunately, we are not dealing with God's children. We are dealing with the beasts of the field, whom are willing to do whatever to protect their own kind. And I've said this before. The only time when white people have an issue about their actions isn't when they're engaging in their actions, but it's when someone is pointing out the flaws in their actions. They can do no harm unless harm is done unto them. It's very ironic in a sense, because white people blame Jews for being the victim when Jews say anti-Semitism. But white people turn around and claim victimization when the world perceives them in their natural state of being and having a history of violence.